This is Orange Press Pass. I'm Chris Lewis alongside Dan Cohen and Ben Peck. The Orange falls. They fall to Rutgers in Piscataway 23-15, unable to string together back-to-back Big East wins and a couple of big Scarlet Knight performers. Some of the reasons why the 'Cuse falls to 2-4. Number one, this defensive star, Kasheem Green. Last year he was the Big East Defensive Player of the Year, and really, he looks like he's this year's Offensive Player of the Year after that game.
14 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 1.5 sacks, and an interception. And he almost became the dog of the first half. He committed a personal foul penalty by essentially punching Richie Desir in the face, but he bounces back. He forces a fumble on a
Trying to get that mean streak going.
He forces a Ryan Nassib fumble on a sack, and he really redeemed himself there. Just a strong defensive game and a packed stat sheet to show for it.
And then Brandon Coleman. This Rutgers receiving core just has tower after tower. 6'6", 6'6", 6'5". Coleman's one of the guys at 6'6", and he had 6 catches for 104 yards.
Exactly. He didn't have any touchdowns in this game, but if you look at the Rutgers offense as a whole, it was really balanced effort. Jamison, who usually carries the load, 64 yards, just 1 touchdown, 6 receptions, 104 yards. Every one of those catches were important.
Rutgers gets the victory over Syracuse 23-15. Coach Marrone wasn't happy about it. Here's what he had to say after.
Well, just to recap the game, obviously early on, we had we had an opportunity a couple times in the red zone that we got behind the chains where, you would think that you would have 3 points and we got pushed out of it. Long situations. They didn't come up with any points. We had a fire zone on. They ran a wheel route, which is tough to defend when you're in a 3 deep, 3 underneath. Credit to them. That was a good call. I thought our defense did a nice job during the game, the whole course of the game, despite being put in some very difficult situations. Obviously, it goes back to the same thing. Last year we had the ability, kind of get a little bit of momentum going, coming out in the second half. Go down the field, nice drive, get the ball in position. Again, we get behind the numbers again, 3rd and 12. Line up, try to kick a field goal, which should be pretty good from that. We know that they're very good at rushing.
Well, Marrone's not necessarily a big stats guy, but some of the numbers really went the edge of the Scarlet Knights. Number one, turnovers, especially in the second half. Syracuse commits 4 turnovers. It's hard to win when you're -4.
This has been a problem all season long for Syracuse. They haven't played a game yet this year where they haven't committed any turnovers. Every game this year has seen at least 1 miscue from SU. They've committed 4 turnovers in a game twice this year, 15 in 6 games. That's past unacceptable, Ben.
And you can really make those 4 turnovers 5 with the block kick return for a touchdown for Rutgers. But the worst thing about these turnovers, a lot of them are self-inflicted. Right at the end of the game, Ryan Nassib, Syracuse has to score a touchdown. He throws it right to the defender. That's not an amazing defensive play. That's just poor decision-making.
It's self-inflicted mistakes. And the thing was about this team, heading into the bye week before Pittsburgh, you heard Coach Marrone talk about limiting turnovers as one of the things that he really stressed. The other, penalties. And they reared their ugly head today, 7 for the Orange.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wasn't so concerned about the penalties in terms of how many they gave up and how many yards. Not too much, just 44 yards, but the worst thing about those penalties, a lot of them, again, self-inflicted. It's not you got beat on a sack, you had to make a hold or a pass interference. It's a false start here and there.
The offensive line has just been awful for Syracuse all year long, even with Justin Pugh coming back. The right side of that line committing a handful of penalties today. Sean Hickey with that big false start. Syracuse has only 1 game this year where they've committed less than 5 penalties a game, and it was after the bye week against Pitt. Just 3 yellow flags.
It's the same mistakes
for
all
SU
over and
in
over
that
again
game
for the Orange. And that's the one thing that has to be concerning for Coach Marrone. Here's an example of the numbers kind of working them way together. Syracuse outgained Rutgers easily in this game. The second half, the Scarlet Knights only about 60 yards, but yet when you make those mistakes, it doesn't matter.
It all comes back to those meaningless yards. Ryan Nassib piling them up. Jerome Smith had a good game on the ground. But it didn't matter, especially when you're not converting on 3rd down. SU on the year after the game is now 44%. At a 44% clip on 3rd down this year, that's just not going to get it done. Syracuse just doesn't know what to do with itself in these clutch, important game situations.
And also, obviously, you mentioned Syracuse gaining those yards when the game was heavily in Rutgers' favor, but I think a big part of it has to go to the play calling. You see, once they really fall behind, they go with the pass-heavy attack, and that really gets the ball moving. but they just don't stick with it the whole game, and then when it gets in the red zone, it just stalls.
It just sounds like we're talking about the Syracuse team that played before the bye week.